the button, it's attached to the, that way I can see it in front.
The next name I want to mention is Melissa Alveda. Melissa Alveda, her mother is going to be Skype calling us later, but, you know, I've gotten to know her mom for the past, few years. I've gotten to know her mom for the past few weeks, and I understand she's such an amazing young girl, and
I'm right here.
Okay. Did you tweet the link yet?
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Where should I go?
We are going to have a order here at 6.
You have to walk through.
Can I sit here?
Yep. The same?
Oh, it's live on YouTube. I know.
Want to sit in the back?
Yeah.
Up to you.
No. And even if I get to be honest, I can't read it. You're using a actually 200 phones on it. No one see a thing. The camera actually is right behind you. So I'm gonna stay there. It's fine. Yeah, no, I want. It's fine. Actually, are you good on it? You're not good on it. No.
That's for Paul Sperling, who's running for Congress.
So let me.
He's running. He's the youngest candidate running. Yeah, Paul
I got one.
Do you? Paul Sperling is running for Congress.
Mike, you doing the same one?
Are you? Yeah, I'm with Paul Sperling. He's running for Congress. What do you guys?
Oh, I used to speak Europe.
Oh, gotcha. Let me give you one of these. This is Paul Sperling. He's 25 years old. He graduated from the College of Staten Island with a political science degree. He studied international law and foreign policy. He's very good.
Okay. All right.
Check him out on the computer.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You go to school here?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay. You graduated here.
Oh.
Are you affiliated college? No. Oh, I'm sorry. What's your name? Oh, yeah, I know. This is my son, Paul Sproul.
That's your son?
Yeah.
I love your son. Your son did me a solid. And I
He
went
graduated from the school with a political science degree. Studied constitutional law, foreign
Did me
policy.
a solid at Democrats of Richmond County meeting. Showed up with the, I should speak of what I do is public administrator. Somebody got moved out of here and shut it down. It's good.
Well,
Very proud of him.
I am proud. Go out and vote.
You got it.
He doesn't have a lot of money, but he's got a lot of ideas and solutions. That's more important than money.
I didn't really let you go over it, so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck to you all. Thank you.
There's a bigger auditorium, right?
Williamston, the Springer have like 500 seats and stuff. But
There's
this
the
is
set. There's
only,
the one with the second level.
yeah. So, but I talked to the dean of students, and he said that it's only 130 person capacity.
Oh, Gabrielle's not here, right?
You have them on here.
Oh, they're here?
Yeah, they're here.
I know you, right?
Yeah.
You see us.
Did I see you? You look different. Did I see you at the Democratic?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You look different all the
It's the
time.
hair.
Yeah, you got that color here,
Yeah.
right? You got black here, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
that's why I didn't
You're
know
the
who
only
you were.
person who remembers.
And I don't think you wore makeup either.
No, I'm
That's
much
why
better
you're
at that now too.
All right, so you know Paul already, so I don't
Oh, of course. Is there any other people from the Democratic Association here today?
I see
I'm
Max
sure
Rose.
there's other candidates. Yeah, there's other
I only
candidates.
see one other candidate. Oh, and Jack. Oh, they're all here.
The other candidates running out here right now.
Because apparently this is not a CSI event. It's just an event
They
that
are the
is
stores.
placed here.
Yeah, right. It's not put on by CSI.
Yeah, that's why
It's-
there's like no students here.
And I'm surprised because I thought there would be more students here trying, like,
Oh,
especially
what are the
freshman
pictures
years.
for?
The clue credits.
Yeah.
But it's not a CSI event. That's why if it was a CSI event, they would have the clue credits and students would be around. But,
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. That
Yeah.
there would be more students. It's still a rather good turnout. So
Yeah.
that is positive.
yeah, and the Board of Trustees members from CUNY is here too. So that's really cool. That's the guy on stage. His name is Mike.
It's for Paul
Oh,
Sproul.
yeah, no,
Oh, yeah?
Graduated from the school. He's 25 years old. He's right
Oh,
here.
those are the pictures. All right, so I'm gonna since no one's checking out tickets, I'll walk around then and see what's going on and see if I can hang out for a while. I have to run to work after this.
Oh, okay.
But I work like 5 days. So I'm all over the place. Well, I work at CSI, but I'm working at Mother Pubs tonight. I do like the concerts, like I do stand-ins, whatever. I'm still in that metal scene. Something sometimes.
I was at the event you're doing.
Yeah,
So,
really?
that was so much fun.
Hey, Rich, that's what I do. Poison.
Yeah, Jeff, did you ever see Classic Jeff Wagner?
Yes, I
Yeah, no,
did.
movies with Jeff.
Oh, really?
You know,
Yeah.
whatever.
The hero's journey you watched the Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Well,
Of course,
I'm trying to remember
I
what we were
loved that
taking.
class. I loved it. And yeah, he's in Mexico right now, and he put me in charge of the door for the show. So yeah, I love Jeff. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, he's and he recently got married. Finally,
I see that.
it's a long time coming.
It's like sometimes.
Definitely. Did you talk to NIPERG about having a forum thing?
You know, I'm so busy with the signatures to get on the ballot. So once that's over, that'll be over next week, and then we can start moving into other things like that. But that's actually we're trying to get some engagement, so I might pass that over to him.
Yeah, I hope that happens. I hope you guys are around on campus because like students need to be encouraged to move. I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm just gonna try it.
I mean, I would come on a day that's really busy. Like, okay, there's one day this month that's going to be our student elections for our government, and we're having a carnival, and that's outside. So all the students will be outside. So we just so happen
When
to
is
be
this?
at, I have it at home. I have it written down. I'll tell you. Guys, I have your number here.
You got my number,
Yeah,
you got
so
my
I'll tell
number.
you. Yeah. So it's going to be sometime in May. No, April or May. April or May, like the middle of this month.
Oh, okay.
But I'll give you the exact date, and you can just come.
sausage land.
Kissy babies.
Yeah, definitely. And like they'll be barbecuing, like it's gonna be a big thing, the carnival. We have like the rock climbing wall and like games and art tabling, all that stuff. Yeah, just more casual. Yeah, blended. Because everyone at CSI, like all the student government members, will be campaigning also. So.
Also, just like goes in with all of the other people. That's it.
Gotcha.
How many seats are there?
25.
Also, how many candidates are there?
Well, we have like 2 teams right now, so there's going to be like a lot of teams running. Like I'm on one team, and then there's an opposing team.
Oh, so you vote for the team?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because like once you go for one person, you're voting for everyone else in that team. Hopefully.
You just go down the line.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right. What do you think we just
I
said?
think it's time.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to the March for Our Lives Town Hall. We never want to forget why these young people started March for Our Lives. And so we're going to begin with honoring the 17 people who spread blood and inspired this movement that will hopefully once and for all make the changes that we need. At the end of the reading of the names, we'll have 17 seconds of silence, 1 second for each of them.
Scott Beagle, 35 years old, geography teacher. In his last moments, Beagle ushered students back into his class and even unlocked the door to let other students in while the shooter was nearby. Like Scott, I was a social studies teacher for 32 years, passing kids home.
Alyssa Alvadev was only 14 years old, a freshman, the daughter of Lori and Eli Mark Alvadev. Alyssa Alvadev's laugh was contagious and could be heard within a mile radius. That's what her mother said. Elon went to Wagner High School. They have Staten Island connections and Jersey connections. This one felt a little personal too.
Aaron Fice, 37 years old, assistant football coach and security guard. Fice was an incredibly selfless man who cared not only for his athletes, but for his students as so many others. My cousins were mentored by Aaron. And my cousin was in the school that day, and thank God she made it out alive. Aaron jumped in front of bullets to protect his students. I was a teacher for a decade. Our classroom teachers are first responders, and we don't need guns to save lives.
Carmen Central was 16 years old. She was a senior. She was a National Merit Scholar finalist. And out of every one of the 17, she was the closest one I would call my friend.
Nicholas Lovett, he was 17, a senior. Nick was a star swimmer and captain for the Douglas swim team.
Cara Lawrence was only 14 years old, a freshman. Cara danced at the Drake School of Irish Dance in South Florida.
Helena Ramsey, 17 years old, a senior. Helena was getting ready to start college next year. Young, vibrant, full of life. A life wasted. A life that had much promise. No longer.
Peter Way is a 15-year-old freshman. Peter was a member of ROTC. As Peter's friends were leaving and running out of the school, Peter kept the door open. This is 49-year-old Chris Hickson, coach, veteran, mentor, father.
Martin Anguiano was only 14 years young and was part of the ROTC program at Douglas High School.
Jamie Gutenberg was also 14, a freshman. Her grandmother described her as fun, loving, and beautiful.
Elena Petty was only 14 years old, a freshman. Elena was part of the ROTC program at Douglas.
Neto Howard, 18 years old, a senior. Neto was accepted into Lynn University in Boca Raton.
Alex Schefter, 14 years old, a freshman. Alex participated in the school marching band and the orchestra, playing the baritone in the former, the trombone in the latter.
Joaquin Oliver, just 17 years old, a senior. Joaquin was also known as Joac, only became a U.S. citizen in January 2017. He also loved hip hop. That, along with him being an immigrant, resonated with me.
We remember Gina Montalto, only 14 years old, a freshman. Gina was a member of the Winter Guard on the school's marching band.
Finally, Luke Hoyer, only 15 years old. He was a freshman. Luke's family described him as an amazing individual.
Yeah, we'll have 17 seconds of silence.
Thank you.
Congressman Dan Donovan. Congressman Dan Donovan.
Just give me a second. Wait.
On election.
So just briefly, and then John will be speaking a little bit about why we formed this, why the young people formed it. A couple of things. March for Our Lives NYDC was formed and inspired when Ryan and his friends announced the March for Our Lives on every network, only 4 days after the shooting. Most of us were devastated, like most of you were devastated on Valentine's Day. And literally the reaction was, we kept hearing another school shooting. Another. And honestly, it probably would have stayed there. And as someone who does nonviolent work, I lost hope. I thought, I'm wasting my time. I go to the UN International Day of Peace, I bring young people there, and it's literally like I give up. And what Ryan and his friends did 4 days later was completely turn the give up to, we've got to form March for Our Lives NYDC and get everybody that wants a seat to go join them in Washington a seat. And we found out that Staten Island had 2 buses for the Women's March. And we said, let's get at least 3. You know what, let's try to double that. Let's see if we can get 6. And we did. We got 6 buses from Staten Island to go to the next summer. But we didn't stop there. When the young people kept going, we wanted to do more, we're organizing. We took on helping people from New Jersey and as far north as Syracuse. and we said, you know what, let's get at least 17 buses, one for each of the victims, and people here made that happen, okay? And as was said earlier in one of the interviews, people keep saying in the papers and the comments, who paid for the buses? I don't know George Soros. He did not pay for our buses, okay? And we never met George Soros, actors, commentators. I'm not an actor, they're not actors. And here's what I want you to do. If you in any way, including the elected, or a convict, if you in any way contributed to one of our buses going down, please stand up right now. If you contributed in any way to any of our buses going down, please stand up right now. Please stand up right now. Please stand up right now. If you contributed in any way, please stand up right now. Now, I lead the student organizer who inspires me every damn day to lose sleep to help raise the next dollar we need to make something happen, John Pepper.
17 seconds felt like a long time, didn't it? That's because it was. That's because it's a lot of people. It may not seem like a lot. That is. If that was one of my friends, I don't know how I have the ability to stand up here, and that's why I really admire Ryan, because seriously. It's really hard. I feel the emotion right now. Just doing my research on every single one of these kids, every single one of these people, hearing about their lives, hearing about how Yohina Oliver just became a U.S. citizen and he was killed. The emotions that I have right now, I am pissed. I am beyond pissed at our government. They failed us. The FBI failed these poor kids in Parkland. There's no excuse. You were the federal agency of investigating, and you failed us. 17 people are dead now. This should not have happened. It should have stopped after Columbine. A week after Parkland, I was in a lockdown, a hard lockdown. A student reported that they heard somebody say they had a weapon on them. And I was hiding under a teacher's desk in an administrative office inside of Susan E. Wagner High School. It was a hard lockdown. Now, it wasn't that long of a hard lockdown. The hard lockdown and a soft lockdown is what we had at Wagner, okay? And a hard lockdown is the real deal. You'll never hear them say it's a hard lockdown unless it's the real thing. And soft lockdown is normally they're just looking for a student within the building, or it's a drill. And they normally clarify it's a drill. This one was not a drill. You heard the emotions through Mr. Marinella's voice when he announced that it was a hard lockdown. And I knew it was the real thing. And I'm sitting in an administrative office hiding under a desk, under a teacher's desk, and I'm thinking, what is going on? And then you start hearing sirens. You start hearing the sirens, you know it's the real thing. I start listening to certain sounds. I never thought I was ever going to be in that position in my entire life. I never want to be in that position ever again. That was the scariest thing I've ever gone through. And I really, there's no excuse. This needs to stop. And personally, I don't think that New York City's, protocol for lockdowns are the safest. And that's just my opinion, honestly, because, I don't feel, we had the window, we had the door, and the way the teacher really wanted me to hide in front of the door. I had a seat in front of the door, and she really said, just stay there. Do I look like I really want to stay in front of a door with a situation? But besides that, I want to thank Wendy. Wendy, you really, really inspired me a lot too. Ryan, you and your friends have beyond inspired me. I'm up here because you guys are the reason I'm using my voice. Seeing Emma Gonzalez on TV, seeing Ryan, Cameron, all of them speaking up. I never thought I had a voice up to this moment. And Ryan told me earlier today that everybody has a voice. And I really didn't see that up until just seeing Emma on TV, Ryan again. And I really want to say thank you for that, because you really are. I
showed up.
And dive in on your reps if you're watching this. I just want you to know we are coming for you. And I really appreciate you all showed up. You showed up at the march. You guys are part of history. Thank you.
Now we're honored that Lori Alladell, who lost her daughter, who has ties to this area. She's a native of New Jersey. Her husband is a native of Staten Island. He's a graduate of Wagner High School. She is going to be Skyping in to speak to us about the loss of her daughter, and also, that's just stuff. And she's going to be Skyping in to talk to her. And what she has done is formed a foundation, and she'd like to tell us about that. And what we've told them is the truth. Is the minute before March for Our Lives NYDC, people from the area are constantly asked about this family. There hasn't been a day that goes by that doesn't. So let her feel the love that she's here because we told her that you guys are. Can you hear us, Lori?
Yes.
Fantastic. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Lori Alladell. It was Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2018. And Alyssa wasn't looking forward to this day. All she wanted was somebody to love her, to be her Valentine. That morning, I bought Alyssa a gold bag, and inside the gold bag was a chocolate bar and earrings and hair ties because she was always taking mine. I dropped her off at school, opened the door, I told Alyssa I love her, and she said, I love you too, Mom. And that would be the last time that I'd see Alyssa alive. It was about 2:10, and I received a text message. Shots fired at Stoneman Douglas High School. Kids running and jumping the fence. Immediately, the next second, I had this overwhelming sense of loss over my body. I knew something was wrong with Alyssa. I picked my stuff up and I ran and I got into my car and I drove as fast as I could to Stoneman Douglas High School. I got to a point where I couldn't drive anymore because there was traffic, and I parked my car on the sidewalk and I started running. And I started running towards Stoneman Douglas High School. I was screaming and I was grabbing myself and putting my nails into my skin because I had this feeling, I had this sense of loss that something was wrong with Alyssa and she needed help. She needed me. And as I looked around, everybody was just kind of staring into space. And I was the only one acting like something was wrong. I can remember a yellow caution tape from tree to tree. And I remember breaking through that caution tape. And a police officer with a big gun stood there. He pushed me back. And he said, where are you going? I told him, I'm going to Alyssa. She needs me. She's shot and she is hurt. And he told me, you can't go. So I turned to the police officer next to him and I told him, run with me. And you're going to take me to the hospital. So we started running, and he started running. I was running, and he started running just as fast as I was. And I was running a little bit faster than he was, but he was keeping up with me. And then he put me in the back of his police car. And I remember, I felt like the victim. I was in the back of that police car, and I remember feeling the black, and they were cold, but it was very hot in the air. And he took me to the command center at the Marriott. And I was the first person there. It was not even set up yet. There was a few police officers there. And I went into the Marriott, and I asked them to help me. I asked them to call the 4 different hospitals. But But in the meantime, I sent my husband to one hospital, my grandmother to the other hospital, and my friends to, I got put to go to Coral Springs Medical Center. I got nowhere, so I decided to go to the hospital 5 minutes away. A man, a complete stranger, I got into his car. He told me to take me to the hospital. We got to the light, and at the light, I got in the car and I asked the police officer for a police escort, and he said yes. So I left that stranger and I got into a police car, and this time, I was sitting in the front seat of the car. And I can remember the police officer being about 200 pounds, but of all muscle, and he drove as fast as he could. And I can remember thinking, why doesn't he have the sirens on? This is an emergency. Alyssa's shot. Alyssa's hurt. She needs me. We got to the hospital, and I remember going in the ER, and there was a glimmer of hope. I saw a girl in the room look just like Alyssa, and I remember jumping. However, it was not her. They told me that Alyssa might be a Jane Duck. She might be in the emergency room, but she was not. We got back into the police car. We drove back to the command center, and tricking the police officer, trying to get him to go to the right in Douglas Free School. However, he caught on, and he took me back to the command center. At this time now, I wasn't the only person there. There was hundreds of people there looking for their loved ones. And I was looking too for Alyssa, but I could not find her. They took us and put us in the holding center, the people that couldn't find their children. And we just waited. And then they took us to another place. I remember when I walked away, I went to the bathroom, and I started screaming to God, why? Why did you take Alyssa? Alyssa is one of the great ones. And then I went back into the room where everybody else was, and they kept throwing pizza boxes to the sky. Who would ask for cases and cases and cases of water, teddy bears, Red Cross and American blankets to try to keep us warm. They didn't know what to do. They just kept throwing everything at us. So at this time, there is less than 75 people there in the room, and we waited. It was about 5 o'clock when I got there, and we waited and we waited. About 10 o'clock at night, I went to Rabbi Goodnight, and I told him, you need to start planning the preparations for Alyssa. And he said, no, please have hope. And I told him, no, you need to start it. And he said, okay. Because we're Jewish, and the next day you're supposed to bury your child. It was 2:30, and at night, or in the morning, sorry, that we finally heard, we were called into the room by the FBI. And they sat us down, and he didn't want to tell me, but he wanted to tell my husband. But I said, no, I want to hear. He told me that Alyssa's feet got shot off. It turned out to be a lie. Okay. And then they told us that we believe that Alyssa is dead. We believe. Well, guess what? That's just not good enough. We had to sign paperwork, and then we went home. The next morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I drove about a minute from my house to the Everglades, which I felt was the closest that I can get to God. And I asked him, and I said, why? Why did you take Alyssa? Why? And I tried to look for answers. And then I left there, and up in the sky, I saw the bright light shining through. And I felt it was Alyssa, that she was safe, and she was happy, and she was in heaven. About a minute from where I was, I drove to my mother's house, and I asked her to come with me. We were going to the medical examiner's office because we need to see Alyssa. I drove 45 minutes to the medical examiner's office, and I went in. No one gave me permission. No one told me I could. I went in because I wanted to see my daughter. They told me, I'm sorry, you can't see her, but we will give you a picture of her face. So a couple minutes later, he came back with a picture of Alyssa's face, and it wasn't blown off. It was beautiful. Her eyes were closed, and she was all pale. But it was at that time that I knew for 100% certainty that Alyssa had died. I had to sign paperwork to release her to go to the funeral home. Later that day, we made the funeral arrangements for Alyssa, which took a couple hours. And then I got to see Alyssa. And I remember touching her and looking for that scumbag shotter. He shot her 10 times. He shot her in the head. He shot her in the heart. He shot her in the second artery, which was her soccer leg. And he shot her in the spine. If she lived, she would have been paralyzed. And he shot her a few more times. And I remember as her mother, I sat there and I tried to warm her body. She was so cold. I was trying to bring her back to life and try to warm her. So we left there and we went to Pine Trails Park. There was a memorial for all the 17 victims. And at that park, and after going through the day that I went through before and now, I was pissed. And I went up to a reporter and said, I have something to say. And she brushed her hair and she moved me off. And I said, it's okay. And then I went up to another reporter from CNN and I told him I have something to say. And he said, you got it. And he handed me the microphone. And then you all know what happened after that. So after that day, so we left there. And the next day was Alyssa's funeral. We got to see Alyssa right before they closed her casket. And I remember taking her hair like this and cutting off a piece of her hair because I wasn't going to allow him to take everything from me. I wanted something for her to keep. And we got to say goodbye to Alyssa and put her stuffed animal in her coffin. She was only 14 years old. And we put pictures of her brothers and her mother and father, a little piece of paper that said Anna on it, which was her Hebrew name that we got where she had mitzvah in Israel. And I remember thinking that one day she'll appreciate that. And we do, because I feel that it was the closest we ever was to God. We went and we buried Alyssa, and I can remember, actually I don't remember the scream, but someone told me I did, and he said that scream haunts his life forever. I remember putting my finger up Alyssa's casket as it being lowered deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the ground until I couldn't touch her anymore. And they told me that there was a tracker on Alyssa's casket. I said, really? Is there an app for that? I think to follow her. He said, well, why? And I said, why? And he said, because in case there is an earthquake and she moves. After that day, after we buried Alyssa, we sat shivered for 7 days, and we had so many people, hundreds of people come to pay their respects to us. And we truly appreciate and love them so much for that. I even got a hugging injury on my neck, which I didn't even know was possible from being hugged so much. But in my grief, I have started a nonprofit organization called Make School City. Which will focus on improving the safety of schools by researching and teaching best practices for school safety and implementing these practices in model schools that can serve as an example for schools everywhere. Please visit our website at www.makeourschoolsafe.org and please donate. We must demand that our schools are safe. We must act locally to make our administrators share our priorities and our thinking in creative ways. We have to change our thinking and bring school safety as important as the curriculum, the programs, and the textbooks. Because if one child dies on the school's watch, nothing else matters. That school has failed every single student. We can't rely anymore on the odds of nothing happening our schools, and that it will happen to someone else. Beyond word that Alyssa would not have been killed at Stone Douglas High School. Alyssa used to say to me, "Why lock our doors, Mom? Nothing ever happens in Parkland." Let's take action and make our schools safe. It won't be easy, but nothing ever is. With passion and persistence, it can be done. Please support making schools safe. Thank you, and I love you, Staten Island.
Lori, please know that Staten Island will be working with you every step of the way, won't we? All of New York City, we love you all. Thank you so much. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now, this is going to introduce Ryan Dice.
February 14th is my sister's birthday. She had to spend that birthday huddled under a desk, holding Lauren Hogg, David's sister, her hand, hoping that she was going to make it home that day. I've been amazed by what I've seen. I'm amazed that I cannot see the end of this crowd here in DC today. And these walkouts have been criticized. They have been told that it is a disruption to the educational process. And I say to them, the real disruption to the educational process is staring down the barrel of a gun. Where's the shooter going to enter? When's he going to come in? Where can I hide? We're done hiding.
I want to bring in senior Ryan Deitch. He has a question for Senator Rubio.
Now, what I'd like to say, Senator, these drills, code reds, active shooters, they've been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. When I was in 5th grade, I had to hide in a bathroom for 3 hours and just waiting with my teacher and nearly 20 other kids to see that just because a shooter has come to our town, not even in the school itself, now 7 years later, I'm in a closet with 19 other kids, waiting, fearing for my own life. And I'd like to ask you, why do we have to march on Washington just to save innocent lives?
You live through and what you live through. It's not supposed to be a part of your high school experience. It's just not supposed to happen.
We're done being afraid. We're done being full of fear because it is a waste of our time and it is not living out what our forefathers, what our founding fathers envisioned for this country. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. And now I know we march today. But this isn't over. This is the beginning of the end, and from here, we fight. It is time to fight for our lives. And I say there's only one way to do that. We need to rev up society. We need to rev up the engines. We need to rev up America. And we do that through registering to vote. We need to we will educate. We'll be going around the country until these elections and therefore after, until we can tell every man, woman, and child in this country what is real, what is going on. And we need to make sure that everyone knows what is actually happening in their backyard and abroad. So we will register, we will educate, and then when it comes down to it, we will vote.
Thank you. I really wish somebody told me to get a haircut before that.
Hi, everyone. I'm so thankful to be here tonight. So thankful for John for inviting me over Twitter. He's telling me that there was a town hall here and that the representative may or may not come. We know tonight that no show. It's tragic. It's also ridiculous that, I mean, even here, after all this, after all that my group has done, after all we've been through, that a representative would not show up to meet with his own people. That's, like, for the CNN town hall that I was allowed to ask a question in, the governor was invited. He did not show up. The president was invited. He did not show up. But at the very least, our congressman showed up. He represents our people, our area. At the very least, he should know what is going on with his people, what the issues are. I'm very thankful for Ted Deutsch. I'm very thankful for everything that he's done in our community and how he continues to stand up. And I was able to go to a town hall in my area. And I'll tell you, it was a waste of time. There were a bunch of like-minded people there, a bunch from the same party, which, as I see today, there are mostly, if not all, Democrats here. But that's part of the issue. It's that we need to sit down together. We need to sit down together. We need to talk together. And I've said this earlier, and I'll say it again and again. We need to sit down at the table instead of throwing chairs. Now, I assume just from the way that this crowd is reacting that you more or less agree with everything that I have to say. So I don't know how much I actually have to say. But with everything that we stood up for everything that we think, we want to make people safer. We want to make kids safer in schools. We want to make it safer to go to a movie theater, to pray in a church, to just go to a concert. You should not have to fear for your life no matter where you go. And I'm just going to grab something right here. I was wearing it earlier as I was walking around. This is the backpacks that now we have to wear at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. This is not my backpack. This is my sister's backpack, who, as you know from the speeches, that it was her birthday, February 14th. That day, she was in the classroom right next to mine, within a wall apart. I could hear them in the other room. They could not hear me. I was glad to be reunited with her after that. But Alyssa Al-Yadab is my sister's friend. Never be the same. Alyssa went to the same summer camp that I've gone to since 2009. URJ Camp Coleman, Cleveland, Georgia. So far removed, so far out of Parkland, they don't have the same problems that we have. All the people there are from all over the Southeast region. But they came to her funeral. A great deal of them flew out, even if it was just for the day, just to be with the family. They flew out to spend time with the family while they were grieving. The director of the camp came and he had lunch with the family, with my family, with everybody. But now, we've looked at what's happening. We're looking at what's next. what's to come. That's what this is. That's what this town hall is here in Staten Island, and that's what all the town halls all across the country are for. It's that maybe you don't face the same issues that I've been facing in Parkland. Maybe you don't face the same issues that I face in Florida. But there's still issues. There's still things you have to face, and there's still things that the government is able to fix almost instantly, yet they choose not to. And that's what I just hope comes out of tonight. I hope that after the fact that we are just unified, that we're able to sit together, and if there's a problem, you aren't afraid to bring it up. You aren't afraid to say something about it. You say, hey, maybe this is only been facing me. Okay, you can get down to it. You can get to the right person. You can face the right issue. At my town hall, the biggest issue that they brought up was this. Not one person at that town hall was able to solve it, because not one of them was from the school board who imposed this limit to our freedom. And as you can see from the front here, I have the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution in the front. When I went to Congress to speak to congressmen and senators from all over the country, I would hold it in my hands every time they would try to quote it. I would correct them. I'd just like to say one last thing, so I won't take up too much time. The one thing that I faced mostly in Congress was the issue of non-issues, of a problem that everyone can agree on, something so small that doesn't become polarizing, something like with this gun issue that we are able to solve almost immediately, yet they're never solved. The one example that I will give is from Senator Lindsey Graham. We discussed no fly, no buy, in which if you're on the terrorist watch list, you should be limited in buying a firearm, which currently in this country, you are not. You brush that off, you feel like that's ridiculous, because it is. It's absolutely ridiculous that if you are a known dangerous individual, maybe you shouldn't be fully barred, maybe it shouldn't be like a life sentence, but there should be some sort of weight. There should be something in which they can investigate, like, why are they buying that gun? Why do they need that gun? And Lindsey Graham responded, it's a non-issue. There's still no law in place. There's still nothing. They've been talking about it. I met with him near the beginning of March. No, even February. I met with him in February. It's April. Where is that law? Where is that action? They act like they cannot act because they get to sit in their chairs. They get to sit on that ivory tower. They get to sit on Capitol Hill. Dan Donovan isn't here. He's still sitting in his position. I'd like to give everyone else time to do that. We love you, Brian.
I want to make this promise to Ryan, anybody watching the streams, everybody sitting in this auditorium today, until I see a change with my own eyes, I will not stop fighting, and I will not let anybody be another statistic.
You're going to hear from a few more of our youth student leaders, organizers. Nicholas, come on up. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Wow, so emotional. And I don't say this happy when she was speaking. I had tears swimming to my eyes. I would like to really thank you, Ryan, so much for your grassroots advocacy. What you have started is amazing. What John has started is amazing. And I am so happy to be with them today in this fight. Because This is a fight for our lives, and it is a fight that we must win together. I remember in 2012, when recap happened. My grandmother had just flown in from the Caribbean. I was walking up from school, the door was open. I saw the TV. My grandmother with tears in her eyes, my mother with tears in her eyes. One name after the next. 6, 7, 8-year-olds. Gone like that. Tragic. That was 6 years ago. Time after time after time again. 33,000 people die every year from gun violence. Over 100 mass shootings in this country. When is enough? Enough! Enough is enough! This is not a Republican issue. It's not a Democratic issue. You can be Green Party independent. This is a human life issue. As people said tonight, our very own beloved Congressman failed to attend. I see that. Hope you get myself out of that. If you read the SI Advance, you know what Congressman Donovan's working on? Yes, he's working on a bill to make sure that President Trump is in every post office in America. You're glorifying our president. We have children that are dying. That is our calling. Congressman Donovan, your time is coming up. I would like to thank all the elected officials that are here today and all the prospective elected officials that are here today. And believe me, one of you guys have to be out toys this evening. This happens way too often in our country. And I went to Washington, D.C. with John and a bunch of others because the SID and a bunch of other groups made it possible. You fear we take your guns, I fear for my life. And that couldn't be more true than today. This issue must be stopped. Like MLK's granddaughter said, we are a great generation, and it is going to happen now. Let's stand up for our lives. Let's continue fighting.
Next up, I want to welcome up to the stage Devin Sword, one of our student organizers here as well.
Good afternoon. I'm a Staten Island High School student, and I'm here today because I'm inspired by the Parkland students like Ryan, by the families of the Parkland students, and the memories of the people that we lost, the people that we as a nation failed. Just like the other student organizers, I remember in 2012 when Sandy Hook happened. I remember being in the 6th grade, sitting in class while our teachers tried to tell us that it would never happen here. Never in New York, never to us. But that's not true. Just a few months ago, outside of Stuyvesant High School, there was a shooter threat, the school where my little brother attends. They were on lockdown for hours, while 8 people were dead outside. It does happen here. It's a prime example that there are 0 degrees of separation. This is happening in our schools. in our movie theaters, in our churches, in our nightclubs, at our concerts, and nothing has been done. I was supposed to be sitting next to Congressman Donovan today. I don't see him. Congressman Donovan is our representative, and the fact that he's not here shows that he doesn't understand the meaning of the word. He represents us. He represents every single person in this room, and he has failed. And that's why, if you don't stand with us, you are against us, and you will be voted out. We are coming for all of the cowardly politicians that value their NRA money over children's lives. From my school and from schools across the country, I want to thank the Parkland students who, after the tragedy at Stoneman Douglas, stood up and said enough is enough. They called bullshit on Washington. We will fight for common sense gun control, while our politicians and representatives offer us meaningless, actionless thoughts and prayers. We will fight. I stood in Washington with 800,000 people, with 800,000 friends and peers. We marched just for the right to live, the right to not have to wait to die in a high school closet, the right to have gun control, the right to be safe. The only reason we are here is for our lives, for our safety. And anyone who is against us has everything to fear. They will be voted out because enough is enough.
I think we have our first female congresswoman. Next up, we're going to have Senator Savino, and I just want to say, these young people are constantly on Twitter and doing all that stuff and etc. One of the only adult elected officials that gives them a run for the money is Senator Savino. And yeah, give that a big hand. That's his point. But we have radio time. I sent her a message, and she was the first one to say, whatever I can do to get these young people to do this. So thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I just, before I open comments, I just want to say to these 4 young people sitting here, you're amazing, each one of you. Ryan, your ability to take pain and turn it into purpose, along with your other classmates from Parkland, is a national treasure, in my opinion. You could have done what most people do when they are traumatized. You could have crawled up in a ball. You could have retreated from society. Every one of you have been traumatized. But you didn't. You decided that you were going to take what is probably the worst moment in the life of any individual and turn it into a national movement. And you have inspired young men like John, and Nicholas, and Debbie, and so many others. You know, 2 weeks ago when the Staten Islanders got on the bus, I was in Coney Island. You know, I also represent Brooklyn. And we did a march in Coney Island with 600 young people down the boardwalk in Coney Island. Coney Island kids, they have a little bit rougher than some others. They deal with gun violence on a regular basis. They become desensitized to gun violence, which is why we have to work twice as hard in some of those communities. But they saw this, and they wanted to get involved. And they joined and they marched to talk about how we have to eradicate gun violence everywhere. And I hear your frustration about not just our congressmen, but members of Congress in general. Those of us who represent state legislatures, we understand that frustration. Because what seems to make sense can't get done down there. but we do it here. In 2012, after the Sandy Hook shooting, New York State did not sit back and do nothing. New York State enacted the New York State SAFE Act, the toughest gun control law in the country. In New York State, and we did it and still can manage to protect people's Second Amendment rights. We banned high-capacity magazines, and we can still protect people's Second Amendment rights. We can still protect people's Second Amendment rights, and we instituted a requirement that if you have a mental health issue, you cannot get a gun in New York State. But unfortunately, New York State is not an island unto itself. Because as things go in Virginia, they go in the same way in New York. You can drive right down I-95, you can go to places like Virginia or another state that don't seem to think that we can balance good public policy and protect people's Second Amendment rights. And you can buy anything you want and there's no waiting period. And we all know that, which is why we continue to see gun violence ravage our communities. And we need to do more. Last week, New York State enacted a $168 billion budget. And in that budget is a lot of good money that's going to be spent on anti-violence initiatives. We're going to bring $350,000 to Staten Island for the Cure Violence Initiative. We're going to work towards reducing gun violence. But we also adopted a change in our statute. Last year, I introduced at the end of the legislative session a bill that's like common sense. If you've been convicted of domestic violence, either a felony or a misdemeanor, you should not be able to have access to a firearm. Last Friday night, at the stroke of 10 o'clock, we had passed that bill and the governor signed it into law immediately.
Thank you.
Don't get access to firearms. And finally, I want to talk a bit about the state of mind of many people who do engage in these things. Many of them have been traumatized themselves, and they are acting out on that trauma. There's mental health issues with almost every one of these shooters. It didn't happen by accident. And so we have to also find a way to be developing good, sound public policy that creates awareness of mental health issues, make sure people don't have access to weapons if they have mental health issues, but also address those mental health issues. Because a person who will shoot you, if you take away his gun, he will stab you, or he will beat you, or he will do something to harm you. So simply taking away their guns isn't going to prevent violence. Violent people commit violence. Hurt people hurt people. And I believe that the intersection of trauma and violence, and the desire then to enact violence against other people. So I want to thank all of you for your commitment and your passion to this. You may have started a national movement, and now it's all up to all of us to make sure that that movement moves in the right direction.
Give it up, because he got something done this week. Someone else who knows how to get something done in this entire city, because she's now the youth chair for the entire city of New York. So all of you young people, you are going to be like hanging out in her office, having tea, talking about like, and setting up to help every other borough. And through her CSI, wonderful CSI, give it up for CSI for through the CSI Liberty Partnerships Program, Sean Landry, who's done a co-wit with me, which is getting an award here today. Shout out to Sean Landry. Thank you for helping with the budget. Debbie through Sean helped sponsor one of the buses as well. Debbie, our city councilman, and youth chair committee, Debbie Rose.
Good evening. You know, I'm here in solidarity with these young people who had the courage to raise their voices, to be heard, and not to be shut down. You know, I was really, really encouraged by the fact that you said, this happened to us. We're not going to let anybody push us aside. This is our struggle. We gave it to you. We gave it to you years ago to correct. You didn't do it. And so now we're going to do it. And so I'm standing here in solidarity to be the wind beneath your wings, to push you, to make sure that your message is heard. The Bible says a young child shall lead them. And look what is happening in America today. What we adults can get done. What we can get done, they are getting it done. As a mother, to listen to the words of Alyssa's mother, we all know that that's not the natural progression of things. A parent isn't supposed to lose their child. And so when do we make that pain and suffering no longer happen? In 2012, I too watched in horror as not 5, not 10, but 20 young people lose their lives and 6 adults. And it was really a personal time for me because I was in the ICU and my dad was dying. And as I watched Sandy Hook unfold, and those young people were losing their lives, and I heard us say, like, how could that happen? And how and when will it stop? And we said, never again. And then there was another incident. And we said, never again. And we said, never again, again. And we kept saying, never again. So when does never ever come? Now. It comes now. Now. Now because of the courage, the raw courage to stand up and say to our elected officials that thanks for your thoughts and prayers. But you know what? We need something else. We need something that's going to keep us safe. We elect leaders to go to Washington to make laws, to improve the quality of our life, to keep us safe. This is a public safety issue that could very easily be remedied. It is not rocket science. We could get this done. We could have gotten these things done. There are measures that we could take because we have been sending, apparently, the wrong people to Washington because they're not getting the job done. They are tone deaf to what the people are saying. These young people are correct. You don't have to violate the Constitution. You don't have to do that to keep our young people safe, to keep people who go to a concert safe, to people who go to a dance hall safe, to people who go to a theater safe, to people who go shopping safe. Are any of those things places that people would not be? It is not a no, it is a no-brainer that we can do this. There are laws right now that are languishing because the elected officials that we have in Washington now have not stepped up to get the job done. And so I want to say that the most important thing that we can do is, and you have already decided, that it is to register people to vote. And we know the power of the vote, don't we? And we know that you can affect the change that you want to see by voting, yes? And so we need to have people in office that are reflecting the values that we have, right? So we're going to make sure that everybody who is eligible to vote votes, so that we will not have to stand here again, that we will not have to send thoughts and prayers, that we will not have to have our young people traumatized. It is not natural that our young people should be afraid to go to school, to go shopping, to go to the theater, to go to a disco, or to go to a concert. Especially when we have the power to change that. We know what it takes. We know that there should be background checks. We know that people with mental illness should not be able to get a gun. We know. The CDC has said that this is a mental health issue, and they have studies. We know that there are laws that we can enact today without taking anybody's gun away from them that is a qualified person. We can get this done. And so I say to you, I was here to support you. I think our voices are not important. Your voices are. I am so proud that you have raised your voices and that you have made a commitment not to be silenced. Thank you.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be opening it up in a second. So listen. For the first question from a young person and then adult, and then all night it'll be young person, adult, student, adult, until there's no more students, okay? And what we're going to do is, the congressional candidates will be introducing themselves in a moment, but first we're going to take questions for our state senator and city councilwoman specifically. If they can stick around, that'd be great, because I'm sure other questions will come up if you ask other congressional candidates for them, but specifically for them. So if you have a question and you are a student first, do you have one for either of them first? Any of you guys up here? Yes, so you'll go first. And then who's going to be our first adult question? Okay, all right. And we'll take one more student who has another student question for either the state senate or the city council. Student question? Do I see your hand? Perfect. It's going to be up right there. Yeah, it's your town hall. No students either. And one more adult one after that. Any adult? Okay. Good. Okay, good. See how nicely that worked? Okay. So the first question.
My question is just more like a political question, because you guys passed a lot of bills at the end of session. That's going up to the Senate, I think maybe next week or so. But it does go to the Senate.
What do you want to know?
Oh, I'm sorry. In the Assembly, they passed a lot of bills for gun control. So do you see that actually passing in the Senate?
You know, we did pass, both houses passed some companion bills. So again, the gun bill, is that on? It is.
All right, let's take it off.
So the Assembly and the Senate did pass some companion bills that have been signed by the governor. One was the bill I already spoke about, the domestic violence bill. And now, but there seems to be some dispute over between the two houses, is how we deal with school safety. So the Senate passed unanimously, well, not a Democrat or Republican issue, we passed a package of legislation that would institute some school safety measures, including having school safety officers who could be armed in New York City. The Assembly hasn't done that yet. The Assembly has a package of bills that do something different, and I think the challenge for us going forward is what can we do to secure our schools? I think we gotta talk about how you have lockdowns and drills. I'm not a teacher, I don't administer the school. I would expect you guys to be able to tell me whether or not you think that makes you feel safe, or do you believe that we need a higher level of security in schools? No, nobody's talking about army teachers. The 45 might be army teachers, but we're not going to that in state. There's no doubt about that. The question is, what is the right level of safety and security in our schools? I'm asking you guys as students, what do you think is missing?
There we go. Thank you.
All right. In our lockdown protocols in school, here's what we do. The teacher or an administrator will go on to the loudspeaker, attention, this is now a, hello? Attention, this is now a lockdown, assault lockdown, please take proper action. And the proper action is turning off the lights and putting a sheet over the windows. Really? I'm safe? Are you serious? That's what we got. And no offense to our city councilwoman or I just wanted to say that, Ryan touched on, we should arm our teachers with books and supplies they need. Our textbooks are very outdated. Hey, we do need all our teachers with what they need. They spend money out of their pockets sometimes for the supplies in the classroom, and I really think that our city can do a lot better on that as well.
I don't know exactly how it works in New York, I grew up there, but one thing that I dealt with, I went to a memorial anniversary thing for MLK in Miami on the 4th, and I met with several psychologists there after the fact, and they asked like, what can they do to help? What can they do to help at Stoneman Douglas and schools around our town? And one thing that we made mention of was that guidance counselors and support staff, there's no real psychologist that is like on our school campus. I don't know how New York schools function. I do not know if that's the case.
Yeah, to answer Ryan's question on that one as well, that is not, we do not have an active school.
Right, we don't, and I think somebody gave you the statistics today of the number of school psychologists in the city of New York and the number of social workers that exist in our schools, and Lord knows we need more of them in both levels. Whether or not our school budgets could sustain a psychologist and social worker in each school, I don't know. There should be a social worker.
Okay, well, when it comes to like even a guidance counselor, like school guidance counselors need a teaching degree. They don't need a psychology degree.
I don't know. Can we get her a mic? Yeah. Let's get her a mic.
Thanks. Absolutely.
There we go.
This is the way the town hall works.
I have my master's in education from Fordham University in counseling. It's in the graduate school of education, but it's in counseling. So I'm a school counselor in the New York City Department of Education, and my school's budget only has enough for me to be there 2 days a week. 2 days a week, I am back to back with kids. I'm in an elementary school, and I have cases back to back. I can't even run groups so my 5th graders can be ready for middle school. So I know that Albany is sitting on a lot of money that they owe to New York schools, to the rest of the state. Social worker is there 2 days a week. She's at a middle school the other 3. That's unacceptable. We have nothing, and I'm in a good district. I'm in District 15, and we're a good district. What about those other districts? That's what I would like to know.
And they have too much paperwork and too much non-counseling responsibility.
Like when you said they do have a lot of non-counseling responsibilities from firsthand at Wagner. The counselors are in charge of making the schedules. Not to call out Wagner on camera, because I'm sure this is every school, and here it is every school. They have people hanging out inside of the guidance rooms, When you have a real issue, there's 6 kids in the room doing nothing instead of being in class. I don't know if that's a school issue, but let me tell you something. I've been at low points. I've needed my guidance counselor where I haven't had that opportunity.
Freedom from the paperwork and the non-guidance responsibilities.
I want to just build up on what John said, and I didn't get your name. But, my name's Chuck Hudick. I worked at Wagner High School. John was never in my class, but everybody at Wagner knows John. I was there for 32 years until this past June I retired. A couple of things, as far as like the lockdown stuff. What John said is right. Are you safe in that classroom? Wagner was built 50 years ago. The interior walls are concrete. Yeah, we're probably pretty safe. The doors are wood though. Someone had an AR-15. I don't think those doors are going to wait. And the little piece of paper that we would put over the window, well, it was sort of obvious that one kid said when he started this. One of the kids said this. Well, wait a minute. Would a shooter just know if the window's covered, there's obviously people inside? You're actually putting a bullseye on those classrooms, which was true. I've been through lockdown. Most of the time, you sort of knew it was just a false alarm, but you never know. I remember being stuck beyond teaching social studies. I worked with the school's theater program, and I got stuck in the auditorium control room for about an hour. I was alone. I couldn't leave. And so it's scary. As far as armed police or school safety officers in the school, in all honesty, I have no problem with it. I'll tell you why. I know at Wagner for many years, in the 1980s and 90s, we had a police officer every single day. He actually taught classes, taught criminal justice classes, with one of the regular teachers. So it's fine. And remember, school safety, our NYPD, they're trained. And I have seen armed school safety people. They do exist. They're just not present in the school every day. Would I want a gun in the classroom? No, because the person's going to be the first victim with that gun is probably myself. I'd probably shoot myself in the foot. I'm happy I can walk. One last thing, this is to all the students and to Ryan. You guys are amazing. Watching them talk, what they did, I can't imagine getting up in front of 800,000 people. This is nerve-wracking. It's 150 people. It's amazing. The schools do meet. Guidance counselors, yeah, they have caseloads of 600-700 kids. Wagner has 3,350 students. There's one social worker. It's not enough. Smaller class, how do you pick it out?
Release the money that's owed.
Just to make it sound fiscally sensible at the New York level, at least more there. At least at schools and things, I see a lot of assistants. I see a lot of assistants to assistants, and in my school guidance counselor office, there are 4 actual guidance counselors, but there are 20 people in that office. What are they doing? what are they? Just move the money around there. If you don't want to add more money, if you want to say education spending is already at a high, which it's not, we can all agree it's not, but let's just say the money you already have, move that around. I'd rather have less assistants than actual assistants.
One last thing, Senator Savino, you mentioned the law in New York about mental health professionals reporting people. In Syracuse, at Syracuse University, just the other day, I read this yesterday, a student had been talking about trying to get a gun, and talking to friends about doing things, trying to hurt people and whatever. Well, it got reported between police and university officials. They found out he had sought mental health counseling, and they got him on one of those lists. That law saved who knows how many lives. And he was not a huge student. So to be honest, he's illegal, and let's not get into that argument. His visa was revoked, and he was sent back to China, where he was a citizen, and so on. I don't know what care he'll get there, but that law saved lives. Simple as that.
And you were the next adult. Yeah.
So gun violence has personally impacted me in two different ways. One of them was a positive outcome, the other one was a negative outcome. My daughter is 4 years old, and she is doing universal pre-K at a Catholic school. I feel like there are safety measures in place at that school, but it makes me think, what are the other schools doing in the public school system? And what can the city council do to ensure our kids are safe?
The city council, it's on, right?
Yeah.
The city council has done a number of things in terms of trying to deal with gun violence. We're dealing with it universally. We're dealing with it as a public health issue. And as you know, we started the Anti-Gun Violence Initiative, which is Cure Violence. And so we're trying to change the mindset, the values and the attitudes of people in the communities, so that they no longer resort to the use of guns to solve whatever issues or problems that they have. The city council has also recently, I myself have met with a number of school officials and DOE officials and elected officials to talk about what would be a model for providing safety in our schools. And of course, there were varying ideas of what that should look like. And so we are now looking at all of those suggestions and how we can. We have also made sure that there's funds in the budget for cameras, for we're looking at PA systems so that in many of our schools, you can't even get a clear message out. And so we're looking at, those types of things. And how do we harden the infrastructure so that people are safe? They're looking at their plans on what happens in the case of an active shooter. So everybody is now looking at this problem in its totality. And I'll be glad to get back to you with what actually happens.
Hi everyone, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. On March 24th, March 14th, I am a student at Townville High School. I'm a junior and one of our student leaders from the student organization. And I led 3,000 or 4,000 students out of the madhouse. I was blown away by the results of it. I really did not think that Townville would really come out and do an event like this and actually support us in something like this. But following close to the end of the 17-minute walk, firecrackers went off the corner of our school, terrorizing children, running down Logan Avenue. Deans and APs and the NYPD that was helping us were in the streets trying to calm the children and get them back in the building as quickly as possible. And thankfully, the children that chose to make that stupid action are facing consequences for it. Now, following the F March, we had a hard lockdown drill where all we had was the teachers turn off the lights and put paper over the door. And I don't think that's enough, because my teacher and my fellow classmates proceeded to talk and act like it was nothing when we should be taking this matter seriously. There's even a video that my classmate took and posted to Twitter saying, this is what happens at my school during a lockdown. And you see children just walking around the classrooms, talking to one another, acting like it's a free-for-all, like it's nothing. What are we going to do to change that? Because I shouldn't be scared to go to school and no one else should.
said earlier, we started to try and figure out what do we do legislatively, either at the state level or the local level. In the state, we're grappling with what do people want in their schools? There are two schools of thought. One is that we should put metal detectors in every school to make sure nobody can come in the door with weapons. Some people don't like that. Some people think that's the answer. Then there are those who think, well, we should have an NYPD officer stationed to every school. Some people support that idea. Some people think that creates a police state mentality. You don't want to.
Packed house here tonight on Staten Island. The Republican congressman here did not show up, but all of his opponents did.
There are some who suggested that what we should do is we should increase the post-retirement earnings for retired police officers who right now, if they want to go back to work in the public service, they can only earn $30,000.
Awesome, thank you.
We should raise that to $75,000, that's one of the bills that's on the table, and allow them to become school safety experts assigned to every school to provide training. So there's a myriad of solutions that we're trying to come to, but people become very passionate about it. And they say, well, I don't want a police mentality in my school. I don't want this, or I don't want to do that. We have to do something. The longer we dispute how we get there, the less safe people are. So I think what we really need, and what I hope to get at,
They said you sounded great.
is for those of you who are in school, those of you who work in school, those of you who have to teach students, you gotta help us figure out what's the right approach.
If I may ask, how any of you stand on the issue of metal detectors, because following the walkouts of the schools, our student organization president actually went and met with the mayor along with a lot of other New York City students, and they were talking about the issue of metal detectors and what we should do, so I just want to know how you guys feel about it.
The problem with metal detectors is if in a school like Tottenville or Curtis, where you have 3,000 or 4,000 students, it's going to extend the day exponentially. It's going to take forever to get into that school. I see the teachers nod their head. It becomes a problem. But what do we do to make sure that someone cannot walk through the door and enter the school with a weapon?
This is the USA, not the TSA. I have to walk around and around and around, like legitimately in the parking lot. I park, and then I have to walk maybe, I'd say if I measured it, half a mile to go around my school now because they closed off every entrance. Now, my campus is an open campus, so it kind of makes sense to limit the entrances, but I don't know how many New York schools are designed that way, in which they're just, like, very few schools would have one open. You'd have very few, like, one door opening. So to put something like metal detectors, it's 7 exits, is just logistically impossible, and taking that money out of anything, you might as well buy more psychologists.
I don't have a question situation, but I know we have like a student who was, like one of the.
Everyone heard it.
And,
She did like this.
he walked out of the school and they couldn't find, so now we have door locks for all doors, and you can only come in out through the main entrance, so that's how. Avante's law, yeah, that's totally
the
fine.
same thing, we have ones on all doors.
That was the law we passed, as our
Right. I just want to add to some of the measures that Senator Savino mentioned that are in place. Also, NYPD has beefed up their enforcement patrols. And so they have made it so that an officer goes to each school during the school day. And they have beefed up sort of the local patrol of the school during the school day.
And just to add to that, I attend a Catholic high school, and in the past few years since I've been there, we've had multiple security threats. That the main one being someone broke into our campus and set fire to the accompanying convent. And after that, they closed every single entrance except the first one, which has caused traffic problems outside the front of the school, logistic issues entering the school. And we've had multiple security threats, and not really much has been done. We've failed our lockdown drills constantly, and we still don't feel safe. So I was just wondering how that relates to not only public schools, but also private and Catholic.
As you know, the state does not have jurisdiction over public schools. We can't dictate policy to them. We do provide them a certain level of funding for things that they're required to do under state law. Too complicated to go into now, but essentially, we can't mandate that they do things a particular way. We can recommend it, and usually if we do recommend it, they'll come back and say, well, they need some funding to help them implement what we're recommending. But public schools and private schools are just as equally challenged. I mentioned to Councilwoman Rose, the least safe day in the school calendar is guess what? Take a guess, anybody take a guess.
First day of school. Election day. Think about this. If I go to a school, if you invite me to visit your school, any principal here is invited me, or if you.
I'm sorry, but we gotta get to the next adult, and then we're gonna issue our professional. I'm sorry, I really do apologize.
He's in charge. Okay, will you hold, because we just want to, because this went a little longer because we let a lot of people speak. So we want to get to the congressional introduction, and then you'll be the first question after that. Is that okay? Thank you so much. Okay. So, just a last check. Is there a Dan Donovan anywhere here?
All right, he won't be there after November 4th.
Okay. So we're just going to ask them to introduce themselves in like 2 minutes, a fast 2 minutes, just so you know who you're speaking to. You also see there's a lot of them. So keep this in mind. We're not going to have everybody hear all 6 people answer everything, or people aren't going to get a chance to answer the question. So listen to them and you decide, I like that guy, this guy to answer my question, those 2 type of thing. Let's be better than everybody trying to answer all 6. Okay? So keep that in mind and introduce themselves. Is that mic live now?
Sort of.
Yeah, you can use this one.
Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to get right to the point. Here's what I believe. My name is Max Rose. Excuse me. I was a combat veteran 5 years ago in Afghanistan. I carried an AR-15 with me every single day. I know the weapon intimately. It has no place in these streets. It should never be shown. For one purpose only, which is to shoot as many rounds as possible, to have those rounds enter the body, ricochet, and not leave. And it is not a part of the American story, and it should not be sold on our streets anywhere. Here we need to begin. We are all here today because there should never be a weapon with a magazine large enough to shoot more than 10 rounds. Never again. I don't care if it's a handgun, an AR-15, we are here because of you. We are here because one day no children will ever die in our schools, and it's because of the movement you are leading. But we are also here because of the thousands and thousands of young men and women and grown men and women and seniors who die on each and every one of our city streets and each and every one of our rural streets throughout the year. Thousands and thousands and thousands, and they die because a criminal can't buy a weapon legally in this country. They buy because there are no background checks for secondhand sales. That has got to change. But we need new elected officials in Congress because right now there are Congress. Stand up to the NRA, which is not a defender of law-abiding gun owners, it's a defender of the gun industry. I want to leave you with just this one very simple thing. I would rather lose this election than compromise on this. I would rather lose this election than have another young student die in our schools. I so look forward to working with you, and I thank you, Ryan, and the rest of you for everything that you have done. I'm in awe. I'm Michael DeVito. cannot imagine having to ever utter the words, I had to bury my child. Every day I try to look around the school and I watch the young people as they're going about. And that young woman is right. There are times when it's not taken seriously because our kids have been desensitized. And then there are other times where I can watch a stack of books fall and the entire room becomes terrified in a second. So that is real fear to me. And I try to look back and I think to myself, how can I relate to that? Oh, I once hid under a desk in the test for the nuclear war. That once happened. Many of us have had that experience. These young people, every day, are in fear of their own lives. And that to me is unacceptable. And if Dan Donovan was here today, I would want to know what he would have to say and what he would do when he had to say, I had to bury my own child. You know, I challenged Dan Donovan about a bill a number of months ago, and he said it ought to be studied. And yet he has not even come here today to say that it ought to be studied. There are bills down there, bills which I believe that I will immediately sign on when elected. So I stand with you as I did on March 24th when I marched with you, as I did on March 13th when I stood with you, and I want to continue to do so. You can do it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Zach Gunning, and I'm running for Congress. I want to thank you guys for leading this. When I think about what I did in high school, it was mostly drawing comics and playing computers, which is not very different from today. I brought with me a lot of literature about laws that can change this, because we've heard a lot of emotion today, but in the end, I'll be honest, I'm not running for Congress to fight for you. I'm running for Congress to write laws that make our communities better. We are running to be lawmakers. And there's 3 laws that I brought some literature that I'll tell you about that'll make the country better. One, repealing the PLCAA, which Republicans gave immunity from lawsuits to gun crime, and a few others, and of course, banning assault weapons. So I just want to take one more minute to talk as a parent, because I'm a parent of 4 kids, and 2 of them are here today. They're 8 years old, and they go to public school here in New York. And as a parent, what I want to say to them is, when you go to school, you are safe. The chances of something happening to you in school is really small. I don't want you to live your life in fear every day, to think about bad things that can happen. So as a parent, I want to say your schools are safe. But as a congressional candidate, I want to say we're going to make your schools safer. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Omar Baid. Nice to meet you guys. So for me, the first call I took after the Parkland shooting from a teacher that said she's so afraid to be in school that she would just like to walk out and never come back until there's actual change. She asked, Omar, would you stand up for me? Would you support me? And I said that I would. And I felt the same way. The second call I took was from a really dear friend of mine who's politically very far on the right wing. He's one of my best friends. And he owns 100 guns. And he's been a gun person his whole life. His father, taught him well on gun safety. And I listened to his very far right-wing views for about a half hour and didn't speak a word. And they were all about, this is immediately after the tragedy, all about arming teachers. And I said, are you serious that you would say in Oyster Bay, Long Island, in your community, at a board like this, that kindergarten teachers should wear, gun belts? He said, I'll teach them how to use them. And he said things that are horrible. He said that the young man who committed this act, he would have done it anyway. Even if you took away guns, he would use gasoline. He said things that were so far right. I didn't say a word, and I heard him out. And the thing that I have a problem with Dan Donovan and candidate Michael Grimm is that they didn't come here to hear you out, whether you agree or disagree. And that's a disrespect. Because that's what's really important to me is I don't care so much about what party, and I'm not making this about us versus them. We need the other half of our country. We need them here with us to join us at the table, and then we can move forward. And I don't believe the NRA has a seat at the table, or deserves one, or deserves a voice. And so for me, I think listening to people you disagree with, hearing them out, because 2 months later, this dear friend of mine, Russ, he said to me at a bar, he said, you know what, Omar? I take back what I said, that kid should not have had that gun. And he came up with that on his own, thought about it. So we just need to work together and bring everyone together. And that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Radha Krishna Mohan, and I'm one of the labor union advocates, and I'm also very active in the community. And I salute, first of all, before I talk about it further, I salute all the students for showing the way for the politicians in Washington who are clueless of what they can do with this gun violence. And they're doing a good job. And I believe that there is a time for us to change the Second Amendment that protects the militias to hold the. It was passed during by our forefathers to protect the militias and save, to save their own lives. But we have to change. We have to amend it to make sure that it protects the lives of our children. That needs to be. That is good for those days, but it's not good for now. So this is very important, and every day we are losing our kids and citizens for gun violence, and we need to address that. And as a labor union candidate, what I will do, we don't talk the talk, but we walk the walk. We always, Dan Savino knows the power of the union, Councilman David also knows the power of the union. I'm a labor union guy for more than 2 decades. What I will do is, I'll go out of the lobbies and the special interest groups and against the NRA, who is the root cause for this gun violence. These are the people who promote and protect the guns and manufacture guns and puts in the hands of the people who should not have this gun. So this is what I will do. If I elected to go to Capitol Hill, I will go and do the best I can to bring in the gun control. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Sperling. I'm proud to be the only born and raised Staten Islander in this race. I know what it's like to go to Wagner High School and walk through metal detectors and have to wait an hour and a half, 2 hours while we're all outside trying to file into the school. Time that we should be spending with our teachers actually learning. I know what it's like to live here on this island and to face the issues that we all face here every single day. Graduated from Wagner High School in 2010. I remember when we had someone in the school who wasn't supposed to be there, and Mr. Korn locked the doors and tried to keep everybody safe and keep everybody calm. That is something that no one should ever, ever have to go through. We all deserve to be safe and secure in our communities. We all deserve to be able to go to school, to be able to walk the street, to go to the movies, and know that we are safe living our lives. And so what we know is that the shooter from Florida had 39 interactions with the police. 39. There should have been a system that flagged him and made sure he could not buy a gun. He was known to be violent to the police. He had violent interactions with his foster family, violent interactions with his neighbors, and there should have been a system that would have prevented him from buying a gun.
I apologize.
No problem. Thank you.
Mike Rose and Mohan, please stand up. These are the three candidates here that openly supported us with for our buses down to DC. So, everybody knows what a notary is, right? Okay. You guys know what a pain in the neck process that is, right? Okay. So my suggestion, and I told my POs, my suggestion is we have a mental health bill. We call it the Stoneman Douglas bill. All right. This bill. Now, if you want to buy a weapon, you have to take a test, a verbal interview, and you have to draw a picture of a house like you do with the NYPD when you want to join. This is called the mental health fitness exam, pretty much what we call it. Okay? It will be given by a PhD licensed psychologist or an MD licensed psychiatrist. All right. And if you fail this exam, you will not be able to buy a gun for a certain amount of time. Now, with this bill, Mike and I, if he's elected, I really hope, or anyone elected, if they think this bill's great, I'd really love to work closely with you guys and get this done. Okay, because that needs to happen. Seriously, it is a pain in the neck. Like it should be just as pain in the neck as getting a notary. Because let me tell you something, that is the worst process ever. But thank you guys seriously for what you're doing today. And I'm going to open the floor in a moment. But my question is for Mr. Mike DeVito. If elected, what are you going to do to ensure the safety and security of students inside of the schools in America? Thank you.
So as I said earlier, there are several bills that are already written, and they're stuck because there isn't enough support for them. So the first is 5087. That's a ban on assault weapons. The second is 1478. If we can't study the problem to really identify what the issues are, right, then we have a problem. The next thing is bump stocks. We have to ban them. All right? The next thing is a complete background check, and I'm with you, brother. You let me know how you want to get that done, and we'll get it done. The last thing, most importantly, we have to get big money out of politics, period. And Citizens United leading the way, and lifelong donors leading the way. There can be no legislation on this. We have to move. And I give you my commitment, my pledge. I've made the pledge as a candidate. I've made the pledge.
I wanted to let everybody know, I wasn't only just a part of this. I helped organize a walkout at Wagner, which was 2,000 kids of 3,500. Okay? 2,000 kids. So shout out to those kids. Thank you very much. Now, I also helped organize the one in Manhattan, and that was like just to take a moment to pat myself on the back. 250,000 people showed up. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Iris, and thank you everybody else. Because without you guys, I don't know how I would have been able to do this. Thank you, Lindy. I don't know. I just thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, Ryan, for showing up.
Now, Michael there, he calls me the brain and him the muscle. That's very true right now. He will be holding up a sign. Guys, pay attention to it, or these young people will cut you off. And they talk BS and they're not polite as adults. Okay.
Hello. I'm Malcolm McFest.
Yay, Malcolm!
One day, one of you will be our congressman, right? And
yes, they will. Let them know.
is that true? And when you do, for when you be the first one, will you fully sponsor gun legislation?
Yes.
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 Yes. Oh, yes.
That's a yes across the board.
If you will, please raise your hand. All candidates. If you're going
name's Phil Jonas. I've been in violence prevention activist for about 20 years.
All right.
I want to thank the 4 young people on the stage. You are the change. There are a couple of bills pending right now. So actually, we touched on a little bit. So when you leave at the front door of the sign sheet, please take one of these orange sheets. Orange is the color of don't shoot. It's the color of gun violence prevention. On this sheet is a brief explanation about the assault weapon ban that was mentioned before, 5087. As of this morning, Congressman Donovan was not one of the 175 co-sponsors. And there are Republicans in New York State who are co-sponsoring. You'll see on your sheet his contact information. When you call, tell him to co-sponsor this bill because you know other people who will. The other bill is a state bill, and the bill is called Extreme Risk Protection Order. It's the mechanism for temporarily removing firearms from a person who's appears to be a danger to self or others who's not already in treatment. That's the responsibility of a treating psychiatrist or psychologist like myself. If I see someone who's a risk, I have an obligation to act. If the person is not in treatment, we don't have a mechanism. That's part of the problem. And Florida then passed the bill shortly thereafter. So this bill is currently being co-sponsored by Diane Savina. So, if it says on your sheet that if she is your state senator, 400 thank you. And the other individual on Staten Island who is a key vote, who is head of codes in Albany, who is not letting this bill to the Senate floor yet, is Andrew Lanza. That's right. His contact information is here. I assume he'll hear from you all.
Co-sponsors. There are Republican co-sponsors on that bill. I have just some advice to those people who like to reach out and lobby all of us. It's easy to talk to people who agree with you. If everyone wants to come to talking about bills that I support, we all agree, it's wonderful. You gotta find a way to talk to people that don't have their vote yet. Because sometimes they need to see how personal these bills could be, and that's what moves them. So don't just write them off when they're not on the bill. Don't assume that they don't support it. Maybe they just haven't had that conversation. You may be the messenger that gets them to move on.
As I've been listening tonight, as I've been hearing a lot of things in your community across my face. One issue that me and my friends have faced as we continue to talk and speak out in various regions across the country and in some cases the world. We continually, and I've heard it in the speech, I don't know if it was intentional or not, I'd like to believe it was not, that mental illness and things like that are synonymous with gun violence, which is not the case. And there are a lot of incidents, and there are a lot of incidents that aren't the case. I mean, I'll just give a personal one, which Cameron Caskey, if you've heard of him, his brother, Holden Caskey, is autistic. He is classified as having mental health issues. And because of that, their family faces a lot of issues with insurance. They face a lot of issues as they sign up for various things. But he's not dangerous. He's not a dangerous individual. He may have mental health issues, but he's not a danger to our society. And we need to make sure that those lines are drawn. Those lines are drawn.
student in Pheasantnest, that part of the district. Unfortunately, school shootings are not the only way that young people die in the world. You know, there are people my age and younger almost every day dying in places like Palestine. And America has been complacent, has not contributed to this. And but there are no marches and there are no memorials for them. And I really believe that we cannot focus on some instances of violence and ignore others. So if any of you are elected to Congress, how will you use your power to make sure that nobody ever dies in Palestine again?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask that whoever answers, now already answered one, just for a second. The last question.
So after World War II, America created a global community of democratic nations with the idea that we would respect democracy and respect human rights worldwide, and that we would push for that into the future continuously. Now, what we've seen with the presidencies of George W. Bush and presidencies of Donald Trump, we've seen that we have unilaterally went around the globe, despite that other democratic nations didn't want us to do those things. We went around the globe, invaded unilaterally, and made human rights situations worse. So we have to go back to what we were doing before George W. Bush. We have to once again put human rights, put democracy at the forefront of our global agenda. Are we perfect? No. Were we perfect then? Absolutely not. But we could do a lot better than we are doing right now. And so I would say by putting democracy and human rights at the forefront of our foreign policy, we can help stem the violence and death worldwide. Thank you.
My first hi, I'm Naja, everyone. I go to CSI my last semester in graduating. I'm not here to talk about me graduating, that'll happen eventually. My concern is, because I went to my high school, born and raised in Staten Island, and I've been through the metal detectors and having to deal with that, but this is a large campus. And that's something that we talk about around just my peers, that if someone could just walk straight through the front gate, you know, of course, some emphasis that people never know. We don't have like a PA system that lets students know what's going on. We do have PE alert, but unfortunately not every student is a part of that system, has that via text or via email or checks it. And I remember my sophomore year, we did get a message that someone was on campus after a shooting at the Ramada, not too far away. And we did not know the location of the person, we did not know what to do, and there was not a protocol for us to follow. And gun violence doesn't just start at elementary schools or high schools or middle schools, it goes up to any form of education or where people just live their daily lives. You know, those of you that have come here today, you didn't have to really ask the security guard anything besides where's one P. You know, other than that, there's no real check or security. Yes, we do have ID cards. Most times, students don't use it except to get into the library. No one's checking our IDs. No one's checking who's coming into the school. So I want to know, what will you guys do for a campus like this, such a large campus that has so many students and so many people from the outside of the public, how to keep us safe when there's someone that comes onto the premises that can harm the individuals that go here on a daily.
I'm going to stop them right there, just because I feel like whatever answer they will give you won't be sufficient, because that very question goes along with schools and school boards and things like that, and these guys are candidates for Congress. It's not that they can't give you an answer that you won't like. I feel like as a politician, they should give those answers that people like, because, or else people won't like them. But I don't mean any offense to them, and I don't mean any offense to you. I'm just going to say that I dealt with this in my town hall. I dealt with it where student after student after student brought up clear backpacks, they brought up all these things, and city council can't do anything about that. The congressman can't do anything about that. So I would say that some event like this is not a one-time thing. I know this thing can get boring, and I know that the room is kind of emptied out a little bit, but these things can happen all the time. You can call town halls all the time. You can call for the school board. So So, I mean, they can try to answer the question.
Do you mind if I just say one thing? Because you're right. You're 100% right. We got school boards trying to make you and your sister have plastic backpacks, clear plastic backpacks, metal detectors, school guards. The thing that will save students' lives is getting guns off of our streets. City officials, state officials, they're all clawing, looking for solutions here because this is a federal issue. Over 90% of the weapons retrieved at gun crime incidents in New York City today originate from out of state. In states like South Carolina and Virginia, where they have incredibly lax laws where you can walk in and you can point to another person and they can buy 30 weapons. And then those people can leave and sell those 30 weapons to criminals. And these weapons come up I-95, the Iron Pipeline, by bus, by train, even by airplane, and certainly by individual cars. We need federal action here to save lives. Nobody else can do it, and that's why I'm so committed to see my number one issue as a member of Congress.
If you're in a pledge to take no NRA money, please stand up right now.
The no corporate PAC money at all.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So, just my old social studies teacher who just yelled at me. I'm Mike Arcades, I'm a CUNY trustee, and what I'll say to you is that I'll bring it up at the next trustee meeting, and try to see if we can move something along with CUNY.
I give it up to Mike because this wouldn't have happened without him.
Hi, good evening. My name is Pat Kane. I'm a registered nurse. And I'm the treasurer of the New York State Nurses Association. So first and foremost, I want to bring to you guys a message of solidarity from the Board of Directors of the State Nurses Association. We're 40,000 nurses. We represent nurses from the North Country to here, or out in Long Island to Buffalo. And whatever you guys need, you call me up. And who has worked harder? So a couple of things, and I think thank you very much, Ryan, for making that distinction about mental health and emotional, right? Those are two different things. I do think, though, and something Debbie has fought for that you guys might want to talk about are school-based health clinics, and that comes from the Department of Health budget as opposed to your education budget. And Debbie's fought for some of them in our community. I personally believe that it shouldn't be based on the income or the demographic necessary of the school. I think every school needs one. Also, something that we do in our contract. So if you guys don't know, I mean, you're focused on school, which is what as you should be, but hospitals are also very dangerous places. In fact, the incidence of violence in hospitals is, as healthcare workers, we're exposed to
My
more
father was
violence.
in the hospital and we had somebody, I'm sorry to interrupt you about that. We had a person walk in and beat a doctor with a bat in a North Shore hospital on Staten Island.
Absolutely.
So I want to touch on that. I just want to let you know that my father was in the hospital and he 100%.
So something that we do, and you kind of touched on it. So when we think about, we're in negotiations right now for our contract. So just like you said, you take it. I mean, these guys, they can do things legislatively, and yes, guns need to come off the street. But in terms of the ongoing issue, something that we do that you might want to consider is, we have in our contract the ability to have an ongoing committee, right? So we have OSHA people that come and we do assessments, and we walk through and we do assessments. And then we talk about intervention. And whenever there's any incident, it's us, right? That deals with that incident and that works with the employer to hold, how we can improve things and how we can hold people accountable, right? So I think, that's really an important piece. And you guys, obviously, you have the ability to do that and take control of it. And I wish you luck. Anything you need, you call up the New York State Nurses.
Hey guys, my name is Addison Sedonia, and I just kind of wanted to touch on something that I think has been missing so far tonight from this conversation. And that is the idea of intersectionality. And I think that it means that everything is connected. And I think that a big problem with gun violence, yes, we have mental health issues, but as you said, that is not it. But we do have a big problem with toxic masculinity. And I'm not sure. And I do appreciate having female representatives. But between the issue of gender, race, class, there is this connecting thread of trauma.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And trauma can cause people to behave in ways that they are not proud of. I am a survivor. I was abused as a very young child. I fought that, and I dealt with that on my own until a school guidance counselor noticed that something wasn't right. I come from a family of teachers and social workers. They couldn't see it because I hid it so well. We need people in our schools. The schools are the gateway for all of these children. My husband is a public school teacher. He comes home to me day after day with tears in his eyes because the guidance department is too overwhelmed and the kids are comfortable talking to him. We are putting so much on our teachers between gun violence, between the mental health and well-being of their kids who they care about. And it needs to be addressed. We need to work on this issue.
I only go to teachers, so I only go to
And I want to know one of the things that dealing with my trauma and my PTSD, there are two things that I come back to every day. Those are agency and autonomy. And you guys, like, all the kids at Parkland, you took that moment and instead of crumbling into a ball, you observed your agency. You observed that autonomy and you fought back. And this is the only way that we're gonna win this. And the last thing I want to say is that they're gonna try to bring you down. The system is hard, it is relentless. You have to be relentless too. This is going to be a fight.
Very moved by that, especially toxic masculinity. I would say that I am the only representative from my group here because I answered the call first. There are plenty of like women in our group way better than me. But
bring them up.
We'll bring them. But yeah, so you're great. Everything you said was great. I love that T-shirt. I'd love to know where you can get it.
That's why we have these on. People keep asking, how do you support the national? Only buy from MarchForOurLives.com, like these lovely ones.
Actually, I don't think you can right now. We ran into an issue with a contract that we had. So basically, the only website that is okay right now, you'll see it on a lot of websites because they sell it, but the money does not go to the right places. Represent.com is the only legal owner of our merchandise. Yeah. So represent.com if you want to get a shirt, and I'm in charge of the content committee in which of March for Our Lives, we are making new shirts literally by the day. Like I had a meeting, we designed like 12 yesterday. So like it'll be cool stuff.
We're gonna move to this side now. My apologies.
I just want to go this I'm sorry what you have faced in your life and how you came out boldly to address that. And I think, like you said, any problem can be addressed anywhere. It doesn't have to be down at the male or female. Everybody can face it. The question is how you're going to take it, how you're going to address it, how you're going to encounter it. That's what it means. Doesn't matter whether it's male or female. Doesn't matter. And when you said that the movement is going to crash, it is not. They have made the national importance of the big issue, and the unions can work with them, and we'll do the best with them. They are not going to be let down, they are not going to be stopped, and they are not going to slow down. We're going to be with them all every step of the way. We're going to do the best we can, and this cannot be stopped. This is the time we need to step up.
Thank you very much.
It cannot be stopped.
As long as you build the house.
We're going this side now.
Having been an English teacher in high school for over 10 years, Ryan, I just want to commend you and the rest of your friends for using proper grammar on Twitter.
English credit, because that's what I need.
And also, when you and your friends speak, the eloquence that you use, I know it must get extremely frustrating that you feel that the president isn't listening, and I think he is watching. I just honestly don't think he understands the words that you're saying. Also, Ryan brought up, my daughter has Asperger's, which is high functioning autism. And one of the things that has been very difficult for my family over the last 9 years is when there is a mass shooting, Asperger's seems to get thrown out there as a reason for it, or somebody suffers from that. And it's painful to see because Staten Island, as you know, has a very large autistic population. And for my daughter to almost have this label on her already, when she's like the nicest, sweetest girl and would never do those things. My question is to you, when hopefully the majority switches on over, but if for some horrible reason it doesn't, if the GOP comes out with a bill, a compromise bill, but what would you look for with regards to mental health that would be acceptable to ensure that your constituents aren't stigmatized in it?
Well, I think this gets to an important point, and it's a point where my approach is maybe different from what you're hearing. What we've been talking about is the idea that anyone can buy a gun unless they meet this box with mental illness, or this box with abuse, or this box, or this box. It puts the onus, it puts all this work on society to prevent a bad guy. I think we should have laws that put the opposite. No one should be able to buy a semi-automatic gun until they meet responsibility thresholds, until they can prove with character witnesses to their state governments that they can handle it, until they go to yearly or quarterly training. And instead of, we're so busy squabbling for the scraps from the average table, we're missing our God-given right to a safer country here. So let's reverse our thinking, and instead of saying anyone gets a gun unless they meet this checklist, why don't we say no one gets a semi-automatic weapon until they pass this bar? Thank you. That's my answer.
Thank you.
Hi. Personally, as a student, I relate with you guys, and I completely understand what it takes to be a student. Not only am I a student, but I'm also a tutor on campus at the College of Staten Island. And I just recently opened up my staff email, and I saw an email that said what you should do, what teachers should do, or staff, when a shooting happens on campus. But yet the students weren't told. So why is it that only teachers are told, but not the students? And what can students do about that?
I mean, like, I'll just say from what I know of the day of the shooting, that afternoon, I was in an AP Gov class with Andy Gonzalez, and he is one of the best teachers in the school, definitely not many like him. But he read his email aloud. He just simply read his email aloud to anybody who could see it, that he said that we were maybe going to have an active shooter drill in which they were going to fire blanks in the halls, which is why in our shooting, there were a bunch of teachers who felt that it was the drill that they just mentioned, that the shooting wasn't actually real until they actually heard shots going on again. That just simply from the student's perspective, just actively ask the teachers about it and try to gain some of that transparency, just because I know they might not want to share everything, but when it comes to safety, everyone should be informed about it.
I would say that there's like, in order like to create policy, I think you should really go to, like, of course, student government representative, but go to the school leadership team. I've been on the school leadership team in Port Richmond for the last 3 years, and that is really where the policy is crafted in terms of how we inform students about what's happening. I think there's a lot of ignorance that comes out of some of our administrators when they think. But can you hear me though? Is that good?
No, it's on.
So I really think you should go to the school leadership team, go to your representative, ask them about these policies so they can better inform you, because everyone should know what's going on. You should not have a active lockdown like we've been talking that does nothing. It does nothing but scare, and I'm so scared that after people in our class are doing a lockdown drill, they take it as a joke.
So, I have one more last question. Since you guys are students and you have experienced this, does this make any change in your career as to what you want to do in the future?
Oh yeah, I can speak from my point of view. When I was 10, I really didn't see myself getting into politics, but I was a big fan of it when I was 10. Right? I was recording Anderson Cooper and watching it the next day. All right, I'm serious. I idolize him. I always wanted to be interviewed by him. That's my dream. But you know, now I see myself going down a different path. I want to be a history teacher. However, this has opened another door of things and opportunities for me. And I'm already being asked to help out with campaigns and stuff like that. Like it's huge for me. And you know, has been a change here for sure.
Sorry. Can I just say like what service group? You represent us, and once again, you're going to be the leader of tomorrow, because our youth are the tomorrow.
So I don't know how much this changes things. I've been involved in politics since I was in diapers. But, yeah, genuinely, literally. I'm interested in going into that, but with this and with the opportunity that this movement provides for students, it's kind of opened my eyes that you don't have to wait to grow up, to wait to see, oh, what am I going to be? You can start acting now. And that's what
We are literally like 20 minutes left, okay? This question is for all politicians, okay? We had a police shooting just recently on a black person, unarmed black male. This happens way too often. It didn't change after Eric Garner. So I ask you, what are you going to do to prevent police officers, police on black crime? That's not my question, but I think you understand what I'm thinking.
Where do you want to start? Congress, the state, the city?
Each one of you give a quick response.
And each one of you, let's hear each one.
I'll start since I have the microphone here. What we truly, Eric Garner, his death started a movement all across this country, and it seems right here on Staten Island where it started, we cannot come to terms with it. So right here on Staten Island, what we need to do, first of all, is unseal the grand jury minutes. So that everyone knows what went on in that secret proceeding. We have to have a nationwide model of policeman training that puts dignity and respect for human beings at the forefront of the police force. And before there is a question about mental health that did not get addressed, we have to remember that America is the richest country in the history of the world, and we can erase the mental health stigma by making sure every single person can get the treatment that they need when they need it. Not when things are getting so bad that an incident is becoming dangerous or violent. People need treatment when they have an issue.
Thank you very much. Anybody else quickly, because we have to get Ryan on the flight. Go back to one. She's getting the mic, I can see that.
Thank you. So as you know, a few years ago after there was a shooting, the state of New York passed legislation and adopted into law the power of the New York State Attorney General to act as a special prosecutor in particular cases like what happened yesterday, or the day before. And in fact, Eric Schneiderman has decided to take over the investigations into that case. And I think it was the young lady who talked about intersectionality. That particular case, which is being investigated, which will be evaluated, the young man who was shot by the police also suffered from bipolar disorder, and everyone in the community knew that. They were used to dealing with it. What happened was so tragic, though, and it showed failures, perhaps in police protocol, perhaps in the reporting. You don't know yet, so you can't rush to judgment. So that's why we decided to take the politics out of this stuff, and have the police department do its own investigation and give it to the New York State Attorney General. I have full faith that Eric Schneiderman will do a full evaluation of this and come up with any recommendations and/or charges if they have to be filed. But there's a limit to what we can do legislatively, and I know Debbie probably has a lot of ideas of what we can also do with respect to police and community training. There has to be more awareness amongst those who become cops as to the communities that they're interacting in, and vice versa. So, I mean, at that point, I can hand it to you, Debbie.
The problem is that we need transparency. You know, when these incidents happen, one of the problems is that oftentimes the information we're given doesn't match the information that we're actually seeing. And so we need absolute transparency. Now, New York City police officers are now wearing body cameras, but they are allowed to censor what we in fact get to see or receive when there's an incident like this. So we need to put in place laws where there's absolute transparency. We need to push accountability. Accountability. We saw Eric Gardner, who said he could not read 11 times. We saw where the officer involved was taken out of off duty and put on desk duty. However, it's almost 5 years and he has not been held accountable because, yes, there was a grand jury investigation, which I totally agree that, you know, the transcript should be reopened because we all know that a DA, if he wants to get an indictment, it's possible. And so we need to look at what the charges were and who. There were a number of people who were exonerated in that particular case. So we need to look at the accountability. But the police department has the right to, according to their book, their patrol guide, there was an infraction against their patrol guide. And this officer should have been brought up against departmental charges, and that has not happened. And so we need to push that. And we need the transparency, accountability, and we now need to, they put in place training for police officers, but now we need to make sure that that in fact does happen.
When I speak to law enforcement, or people who deal with law enforcement, one thing that they bring up is saying that this training, like they call it sensitivity training, is that what they're referring to? How ridiculous is that? Sensitivity. with the cases that were brought up for this, like, I'll bring up, Stefan Clark from California, in which I watched his funeral in full, live stream. I watched his brother freak out, and it was amazing. He was passionate, he was strong about it, and when it comes to police officers and holding them accountable, in the particular part that you brought up, and the particular officer, he was put to desk work. You said he wasn't fired.
No, he was still.
We should be done. Yeah, 7:30. That's why I've gone up there a couple of times. It's like, guys, you have to be out by 8, but you got to clean up a little bit also. There's a few things. So yeah. But some of these people are just
Which they don't have to do. Departmentally, they could bring, him before the department and follow through with charges. They were asked by the Justice Department to wait until their investigation was done. But I said, it's 5 years. How much longer are we going to have?
The real question is who watches the watchers? Who actually takes charge in these situations? With all of that, these officers still have their jobs. They still have their job. Like I mean, in certain cases, I won't particularly name them because I do not know every single instance, but they're murderers. How many of the people running right now would promise that any sort of legislation that they can put forth, that accountability at least would have a sped up pace? Like that 5 years is way too long. Stand up.
You are right, but we promise. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I have unfortunately to introduce, we are out of time. So, if you,
they're gonna be good. So it's going to be, you have a comment as a teacher, and you have one last question, yes? Okay, I knew we could do this. Go!
Well, I'm a teacher, so I don't need a microphone. So.
All right.
What's up? So that was my wife who spoke before about intersectionality. Mike, I see you're always on our side. It's always nice to know someone running for an office actually knows what's going on in school. I am one of those teachers, John, like you mentioned, that listens to kids, right? But you said you go to teachers, not to counselors. At my school, there are 2 counselors for each grade. We have roughly 4,000 students. That means each counselor has almost 500 students that they are supposed to be taking care of. We're talking about mental health on the side of one of the greatest abuses of mental health. And no one's really acknowledged that. I just think it's important to recognize what has happened here at CSI in the past. It wasn't CSI, yeah. Before it was that horrible institution, it was a hospital, and before that, my family goes back here a long way. Before that, it was an open, empty field where the Ku Klux Klan burns crosses. So when we talk about intersectionality, let's just remember all of the heavy weight that comes with everything we're talking about here. And with that, it's not a question, it's just something I would like all of you to think about, not just the candidates. As far as I'm aware, we live in the only developed nation that does not allow its own government to study gun violence as a public health crisis. The CDC is actually banned from doing so. So I'm not going to ask you to stand up and pledge. I'm just going to ask you to think about this and what every single one of you can do to allow problems to be named so that we can fix it. Thank you.
One last question, Debbie, Diane. I've heard everybody speak about guidance here today, like almost every other question. Would you each consider a state and city called Guidance in School Act? I don't know what it looks like, you just keep listening, there's a lot of issues in that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it sounds more like a model for the school. We allocate money for the purpose of education. We collect your money and then we figure out how to spend it, right? That's what the state does. We allocate a certain amount of money to each school district. And then we leave it up to the schools to decide how they want to use those resources, whether it's extra teachers versus school guidance counselors versus paraprofessionals versus equipment, whatever the case may be.
Are
Don't
those schools
micromanage. Not necessarily. We don't micromanage the way the Department of Education spends money, school by school, but I think, and they would object to it strenuously if we did that.
I'm not saying micromanage, but you should at least
Can
hold
I-
them accountable if they mess up
Can
using
I-
that money.
But you see, if we're gonna do that, then we have to lay out the parameters for that, which is
Do it.
something. Much easier said than done to dictate to school districts how they're going to educate schools. You know, parents still have a large say in the way school districts operate across this state. You know, New York City may be the largest school district in the country with 1 million students, but there are 700 school districts in the state of New York, and 700 sets of individuals at those school districts who are as passionate and opinionated as you and I are. So I'm just saying that it's not as simple as you make it sound, but I do hear what I'm hearing. This is part of what we're supposed to do. What I'm hearing is that we don't have enough social workers. How we get there now is a challenge for policymakers like this.
You know, what happens is that DOE has a budget, and they have this model where the principal is the chief financial officer, and the principal determines how that money is going to be distributed and what services, how many guidance counselors, how many math teachers, blah, 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 blah. And so, if we need to do something where there's a universal model, and then what happens is that you, the parents and the students, have, just like you have made this into a movement, you need to go to your CEC meetings and you need to demand that what we want in our school as part of this this public safety issues is that we need not only guidance counselors, but we need a psychologist and we need social workers, and we need it so that the one person in the building that has that responsibility doesn't have 500 or 800 we can address the budgetary issues for DOE. But you, the parents and the students, have to bring this up as a groundswell that this is one of the ways that we want to handle this gun crisis.
I heard Ryan say he would write the bill. So, yeah, do you not have a mic?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I don't have that. There you go. Thank you, guys. I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This question is for the few Maxwell. I've heard you denounce the NRA a bunch of times and say you won't take money from corporate tax. Do you plan on rejecting the endorsement that you received when you moved off the
Sure, thank you.
tax who accepts money from the NRA, and do you plan on returning the money that they donated to?
Sure. So thank you for asking that. And I really wanted to answer this for a long time. The Blue Dogs have returned all of the NRA money from 2018 and from 2017. The Democrats are united. The Democratic Party is united around a pure, unadulterated NRA stance. The NRA is not just going to give me an F rating. They're going to give me an FU rating. I have worked my entire life on this. As a special assistant to Brooklyn's first African-American district attorney, Ken Thompson, my political mentor, we worked on stemming the flow of illegal weapons from down south to New York City that came by air, by bridges, by tunnels, every single way. I went around with Diane Arnett in this room to partner with Bright Point Health and Community Health Action Network of Staten Island with a group of Mothers Against Violence, nearly 100, because we talked about the intersectionality of trauma. There's the trauma of family members too who experience gun violence. And we made a commitment as an organization to connect every one of them with the mental health and primary care treatment that they so desperately needed. So to your second question, will I renounce the Blue Dogs? No, I won't. I want to announce the Blue Dogs because I am proud of the endorsements I've received from the Working Families Party to NARAL, to Blue Dogs, to Vote Vets, to champions of the progressive wing and otherwise. Because right now we need to win the House. We need to not just win this seat, but 24 others. And I'm proud that I'm a part of the Democratic Party unifying around a progressive message. I'm proud of that. Now, after Parkland happened, several of my political opponents said that I have blood on my hands. Several of my political opponents, some of whom shared the stage, said that I took siphoned NRA money through another PAC. And they did the same after a march. Now that's a difficult thing to go through, and it is a lie. And that's exactly the type of politics, the politics of lies and vitriol and divisiveness that we need to move beyond. So I will not reject their endorsement, but I will continue fighting like hell, whether I'm a member of Congress or not, for comprehensive, true comprehensive gun reform in this country. Thank you for the question.
Quickly, voter registration, there's going to be a lot of forms in the back. Take them. Who would like to register 5 people? Your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, your neighbors. Thank you. Take them. Okay? Bobby has an event that's going to follow up this one. Bobby, just tell me really quick what it is.